All right, welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We begin tonight in Detroit, where President Trump flipping off protesters and announcing that his administration will end federal payments to sanctuary cities and states beginning February 1st. Yes, that is my president. Also in Washington, both Bill and Hillary Clinton failed to just appear for a deposition before the House Oversight Committee. Is it time to hit them with contempt of Congress? We're going to have more on this in just a bit. And President Trump sending a message to Iranian protesters, keep going. And this message to Iran's leaders just minutes before our show.
The message is they've got to show humanity. They've got a big problem, and I hope they're not going to be killing people. It would seem to me that they have been badly misbehaving.
Ruh-roh. But first, just because you pretend to be something else doesn't mean everybody has to pretend with you. Let's do this. Well, while the Minnesota and actually honestly, multi-state fraud, this is all raging on. There's a threat that thousands of ICE agents may be doxxed tonight, so we're going to have that story in a little bit. But two, while all that was happening, two very important cases were headed to the Supreme Court today on essentially the same issue. Can and should biological men be banned from female sports? Boy, we are going to have fun with this one today. Don't be fooled. This is the gateway to a ton of really weird stuff that they're going to try. And as I'm watching this, the lawyer arguing that men should be allowed in women's sports kind of made the point that was the crux of the whole argument. And I realize what's going on here. Okay, the two sides, like the right and the left, we've been talking past each other this whole time. And the left has done this like very crafty, emotional, but non-legal Uno reverse thing. See, for 90% of the country, like basically every normal person with an IQ above 38, we're thinking like, why is this even a discussion? Men are biologically different from women, XY and XX chromosomes, end of story. You would think the party that wanted everyone locked up who didn't follow the science for the last 5 years in COVID would actually follow that science, but no. They've actually really twisted this logic, and they have essentially made the argument like, oh, yes, we agree men shouldn't compete in women's sports too, but men pretending to be women are in fact women, which they're not. Okay, so I've figured that all out during these arguments today. But Justice Alito actually asked the fundamental question then that lawyer refused to or was unable to answer. What is a woman?
What is that definition?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I think that the underlying enactment, whatever it was, the policy, the law, we'd have to have an understanding of how the state or the government was just understanding that term to figure out whether or not someone was excluded. We do not have a definition for the court.
Wait, we don't have a definition of what a woman is for the court? I mean, yes, we do. Did you notice how the lawyer, when asked, it's a very simple question. Like they in Kindergarten Cop, a toddler figured this out. Immediately went to some like legal jargon and non-answers about deferring to the states before basically obfuscating the entire premise of the entire case. And the hilarious part about today, the one justice that spoke the most and actually said the least, Ketanji Brown Jackson, during her confirmation in 2022, she couldn't define what a woman was herself.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
And yet here she is, one of 9 votes to define it, even though she herself said she was unqualified to make that determination. Anyone who's been through middle school biology knows that the difference between a man is XX and XY chromosomes, period, full stop. And the left can't refute that, so they're like trying to blur the lines. They're making some of the most ridiculous and emotional arguments to justify this.
There are examples, obviously, of some transgender people that have participated and excelled. They actually are few and far between. You know, we have our client here who tried to make the NCAA team because of the injunction. She was too slow. And there's a brief that you, in the amicus briefs, that will share the examples of showing that's a bit overstated. If there were actually a threat to women's participation in women's sports, that could be a different analysis.
What? First, again, this is not a legal argument. But second, because it's patently false. Clarence Thomas addressed this.
Let's take, for example, an individual male who is not a good athlete, say a lousy tennis player. and does not make the women's and wants to try out for the women's tennis team. And he said, there is no way I'm better than the women's tennis players. How is that different from what you're being required to do here?
He made it so simple. The clearest example of this is Leah Thomas. Wasn't even in like the top 400 or 500 of men's college swimming. Transitions to a woman and poof, numero uno in the women's division like overnight. You want to see the gender gap? Look at that. Here's the gender gap leaving the starting block. In swimming, apparently the gender gap is about 30%. In fact, in every instance where a biological man has entered women's sports, regardless of hormone therapy or surgeries or whatever else, they do better than they did in the men's sports. And more often than not, they dominate the women's sports. Here, let's go through some, okay? Since it doesn't happen, we just have some examples that are not real, probably. Oh, wait, they are real. People who didn't even medal when they were competing as men. Veronica Garcia, back-to-back state high school championships in the 400-meter when started competing as a woman. Aiden Gallagher, same thing, state champion 200-meter race. A.B. Hernandez won gold in girls high jump, triple jump at state championships. Terry Miller, high school state titles and regional New England champion. None of these people even rated or ranked when they were competing as men. How about Peyton McNabb? This poor girl in North Carolina. Check out this video. She had her career ended by a head injury from a dude participating in women's volleyball. He spiked it into her face and broke her skull. I mean, that's kind of the worst case. But we saw this in boxing, too. But the girls lost scholarships. They've lost recruitment opportunities and other opportunities because they were bumped off award podiums because of men pretending to be women. No sane person disagrees with me here. Let's do college. After Leah Thomas, you have Cece Tefler, national champion in the 400-meter hurdle. No one heard of her before he became a woman. Sadie Schreiner won 2024 Atlantic Region Outdoor 200-meter title and multiple Liberty League championships as a woman after he tried to claim he was a girl. Tons of others bumped real women, 3rd to 4th, 4th to 5th, 6th place that we don't hear about. These people didn't even make podiums when they played in men's league, but here they are dominating women's sports. And since it doesn't happen, let's just do a few more in the pro series. Tiffany Abreu, volleyball, his team went on to win the 2022 Brazilian World Cup and multiple after that. Austin Kilps won the elite women's division of the Tour de Gila, or Gila, whatever. I speak American. Veronica Ivy won the UCI Women's Masters Track World Championship. Just a world championship. Same with Molly Cameron, won the female category, the 3-day Cascade Gravel Grinder in 2023. J.C. Cooper won the 2019 National Championships for bench press in the super heavyweight division. Laurel Hubbard won multiple international lifting titles pre-Olympics. Jamie Hunter, billiards. Men are even better at billiards than women. Catherine Phillips, cycling. I mean, just here, scroll this. Here's like 20 more examples you see on your screen of people that no one even heard of when they were competing in the gender that biology said they were, but then they proceed to dominate women's sports. You have had thousands of legitimate women place winnings displaced by men claiming to be women. What the hell is this lawyer talking about when just, the biological men beating women is overblown? It's not overblown at all. Look, I have a daughter, okay? If she had to compete against a boy, I mean, it would not be fair. But I would say if he can identify as a girl, then I can identify as my daughter that day, swap places, and crush him. And none of these libs should have any problem with that by their own cockeyed logic. Because I'm pretending, and therefore it's true. The bigger issue here, and this is only briefly addressed today, what about the other 99% of women and girls' rights? Trans people are not a lot, okay? But letting them compete in girls' sports forces everyone else who may not believe trans is a thing, like me, like most normal people, it forces all of us to pretend along with them, or we could face legally defined discrimination. What about our feelings? I don't care about theirs because they clearly don't care about mine. Furthermore, if this is affirmed, you're telling a bunch of girls in cases before the court that hundreds of thousands of girls, and we're talking young girls nationwide, they're going to have to share locker rooms and showers and bathrooms with someone that is literally a boy, a man, or whatever, not a girl. And you are crazy if you think that I'm going to stand by while some 16 or 17-year-old boy walking around naked, sharing locker rooms with my daughter, who will shortly be a 14-year-old freshman in high school. No effing way. What about my daughter's rights? What about your daughter's rights? All the liberal networks whining about trans rights. If you don't pretend with them, you're a bigot. Fine. What about our daughters' rights to be comfortable in their own locker room, in their own gender sports? And where's the line, too? Where is the line of accommodation? Can I be a cat or a dog or a camel? If anyone could just claim something that is scientifically incorrect, claim protected class status, then all of a sudden everybody has to validate that. Or are they discriminating against that mythical class? I mean, like, you see where does this stupid stuff end? Like, I mean, seriously. Logical question that I would pose to that liberal lawyer: can a 40-year-old identify as a 15-year-old and then date a child? I mean, the law is pretty clear that you can't do that, but by that lawyer's logic, if you feel like it, according to this liberal lawyer, it therefore is a reality, right? Where does someone else's right to pretend infringe on my right to disagree? How are their feelings somehow more justified than mine when mine are normal and they are crazy? Like, they have a suicide rate of trans people at like 50%. Not sane. And I hope the court considers that. But what we should be more focused on, parents, when your son wants to wear a dress in like Colorado or one of these lib cities like San Francisco, don't affirm it and then shove hormones into their arms at the age of 7. Instead, tell them, you're not a girl, Timmy, you're a boy. Just like when he pretends to be a T-Rex. Hey, dude, play all you want, but 5-year-old Timmy, you're not a freaking dinosaur. Get inside and do your homework. It is just so crazy that the party, the left, who spent like 50 or 60 years claiming to champion women's rights, they just threw a Molotov cocktail at their actual rights with this trans movement. It's unbelievable. Patrick Morrisey is the governor of West Virginia, one of the states arguing its legislation before the Supreme Court. Sir, I appreciate you, on behalf of my daughter, leading this fight. What's your take on the tea leaves?
Listen, I think today went very well from West Virginia's perspective. I know that this is a case that I was working on for many years. Before I was governor, I served as the state's attorney general, and we always thought that the law that the West Virginia legislature passed was very reasonable. How they drafted it and to have the distinctions based on biology was perfectly reasonable for a state to do. It's common sense and fair, and I thought that the counsel for West Virginia did a nice job articulating that and showing that there were no equal protection concerns or that didn't violate Title IX. So, you never know how things will turn out, but I've always been very optimistic that when this finally gets heard by the Supreme Court on the merits, we're going to prevail. Right. So I'm very cautiously optimistic we're going to win this case.
I sure hope you guys prevail, because this is kind of the last straw for me. The Washington Post, the Democracy Dies in the Darkness, writing an editorial saying, quote, the Supreme Court has the chance this week to save women's sports, allowing states to restore a level playing field for girls by excluding biological men and therefore correcting one of the worst excesses of American culture. I mean, like, when I saw this, read the Washington Post and I saw this, I was like, whoa, it's gone far.
Listen, this is something that shouldn't have to go as far as it has because it does represent common sense. I know when this issue first came up, there were a lot of people who were very scared because there was a lot of noise being made by the transgender advocacy community. But if you start to break it down and look at what this is all about, you say, isn't it reasonable for a legislature to have sex-based distinction with respect to sports, where there could be contact with other athletes and you could worry about the safety of the athletes involved? So as we started to look at this, we thought this was ultimately a slam dunk because these distinctions were so reasonable, they were common sense, they were fair. But the one other point that's critical to make is there have been real practical problems that have occurred with what the plaintiffs tried to do. They literally, this young boy has actually, in the attempt to play sports with women, has actually displaced over 100 different athletes, female athletes, who may not take second place, but now take third place, or don't take sixth place, they take seventh place. And we think that's wrong because it's having a very detrimental impact on the morale of a lot of the female athletes. And we think Title IX was drafted in order to empower women and to encourage people to develop leadership skills, to play sports. And so this was having such a horrible effect on Title IX and women's athletics. And I'm glad the court is finally taking it up, and I'm very hopeful for a good result.
Yeah, well, Governor, we do appreciate you leading this fight very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Dr. Eithan Haim is a general surgeon and was a whistleblower on transgender medicine at a Texas children's hospital. Doctor, I mean, first off, can a man be a woman?
You know, it's an interesting question because really, you know, listening to these arguments today, it's a surreal experience because before coming on this show, I was in the operating room.
Right.
After I finish, I'm going back to surgery. And this is why these liberal justices are twisting themselves in the pretzels, trying to define what a woman is. But the definition is a thing, the person I just operated on. Every single one of this woman's 28 trillion cells is coded the same way. It's determined at conception. You can never change it. The physiological effects of sex are so profound that I can feel it when I'm doing surgery.
Yeah.
There's these differences that are subtle. There's no changing it. And the fact that these people think that you can just identify yourself into a different reality is not only insulting, but it's the recipe for absolute chaos. It's how everything will break down.
Right, but the problem is, and the big argument was testosterone. Like, look, you can be a man and inject yourself with estrogen. It doesn't make you a woman. It makes you a Democrat. And they want to make this case that they're somehow, you know, morally right because they're protecting a 0.01% of people, 50% of which end up committing suicide because they're so messed up from the hormones.
And you know, when you really look at what these people are doing to these children,
yeah,
they are the ones harming them. Right? They are convincing them to adopt a lie, for these kids to believe there's something that they're really not. Imagine if you were a kid and all the adults in your life were telling you, yes, you can be a woman, right? And you grow up and you can never get there, right? You know you can never be the thing you want to be the most. And they're saying that if you don't achieve this goal, that's impossible, you're going to kill yourself. Which goes to your point, is these kids are being abused, not only by the ones closest to them, but the most prominent, the most powerful institutions in this country. And these things have profound effects on the lives of these kids, but everyone around it, the parents, the friends, for everyone to accept these lies, right? You have to accept an indignity, right? Something that's false, that does something to your soul that you can't take back.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Well, Dr. Haim, appreciate it very much. Keep doing what you're doing, sir.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, we're about to see a massive doxing scandal potentially after a rogue DHS insider reportedly leaked personal details, including full names, emails, cell phones, job titles, and maybe even addresses of 4,500 ICE and Border Patrol agents to a radical leftist watchdog. Who is really behind this war on law enforcement? We're going to get to that. But first, the Clintons are at it again, just defying lawful congressional subpoenas. They don't want to testify in the Epstein investigation. Next.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
This isn't your average pill. This is Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks is a fast-acting solution because it dissolves under your tongue.
Rose Sparks.
Guys, get started today.
Connect with a provider to find out if Rose Sparks are right for you.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
I never considered myself an alcoholic, but drinking affected my job, health, and relationships. A powerful medication helped me take back control. Now I no longer feel the urge to drink, and the same pill that helped me could help you. Text Newsmax to 710-710 to learn more.
Hypocrisy at its finest. Despite them both preaching that no one is above the law, apparently Bill and Hilary Clinton believe that rules just don't apply to them. They apply to everyone else but them. The two were a no-show today, refusing to testify in a closed-door deposition over the Epstein files led by House Oversight Chairman James Comer, who doubled down on holding the first couple in contempt.
I think everyone knows by now Bill Clinton did not show up. This was voted on by the entire committee in a unanimous vote of the House Oversight Committee to subpoena former President Clinton and former Secretary of State Hilary Clinton. We will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress.
Let's go. Clinton sending Comer a lengthy letter that read in part, every person has to decide when they have seen or had enough and are ready to fight for this country, its principles, and its people, no matter the consequences. For us, that time is now. Yeah, well, law, it's now the time. So lock them up like, I don't know, the Democrats did to Bannon and Navarro. Former federal prosecutor Doug Burns. All right, Doug, this drives me nuts that they didn't come, but you know what? Let's charge them with contempt, and not the type of contempt that doesn't mean anything. Put them in jail like the left did to Navarro and Bannon.
Well, you're right to cite the hypocrisy. My goodness, we were lectured over and over again that, complying with a subpoena is the very bedrock of our legal process. And how in the world could anybody take it upon themselves to disregard a subpoena? Just crazy, the hypocrisy. However, let me make a legal point. I found it very, very odd that lawyers, particularly, reputable, ostensibly knowledgeable lawyers, would write a letter saying, by the way, the subpoena is invalid. That's not up to a lawyer to do that. Okay, Carl, if you want to quash a subpoena, you have to make a motion to quash that subpoena. So I found that, I suppose the word arrogant certainly comes to mind. Say, hey, your subpoena is invalid. Have a nice day. I found that very, very odd. But you're right. They should try to hold them in contempt.
Well, but Doug, I don't know. If they say, well, Carl, you broke this law and, we're going to take you to jail. Can I just say, no, your conviction's invalid? That's not really how it works, is it?
Well, that's the perfect analogy, of course. In other words, okay, the jury convicted me, and now you're trying to take me off to jail, but my lawyer just wrote a letter saying the conviction's invalid. That's a great analogy, because the point is you have to move to set aside the verdict. Yeah. You have to challenge it on appeal, et cetera, et cetera. So here, the arrogance is breathtaking and the hypocrisy is breathtaking.
Yeah, and Jack Smith is supposed to publicly testify in front of Congress next week. So, is this a precedent? What if he doesn't show? What is the process to start throwing these people in jail? Can Congress do it, or does it got to go over to Pam Bondi, who's done absolutely butt-kiss?
Well, the key is, of course, it has to be referred to DOJ. I look at it as a little bit better news in the sense that when, you had Eric Holder in there and all of that, they would just overlook. He himself was held in contempt of Congress.
For Fast and Furious.
Right. But the point is, now I think this DOJ and this U.S. attorney particularly will entertain possible criminal charges. I do see that.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know how these things keep going. But, Doug, we continuously see the left is saying, oh, we're fighting for justice. These people appointed illegal committees. They searched Mar-a-Lago with no probable cause. They broke laws, January 6th, Russian collusion, you name it, leaks galore. What? Where do they get off saying, yeah, we're not going to do any of the stuff, even though they just talked about the bedrock of our institutions having to be obeyed?
Well, to me, the most breathtaking thing is when they went after Trump with all of the lawfare, and it was obviously so political. And then they turn around when it's in reverse and they go, you're weaponizing DOJ and all of that. I mean, the Mar-a-Lago raid, real quick, not to be overly melodramatic, was the most absurd law enforcement move I've ever seen in 40 years.
Yeah.
That was just insane. And again, though, they are better, I suppose, at the messaging call, because the point is they just turn around and say, how could you weaponize this now that you're going after Jerome Powell, for example? But they get away with it to some extent. Yeah. But the counter argument is the public saw through it and they reelected President Trump.
Yeah. So elections have consequences. Now throw some people in jail. Doug Burns, we appreciate it.
My pleasure, Carl.
All right, coming up, how dumb do you have to be to call one of the smartest people of our generation dumb? I mean, really dumb. What Ilhan Omar had to say about Elon Musk in our Culture Clash next.
Stacked in boxes filled with moments once cherished, where do these older home movies belong today? At iMemories, we transform your cherished tapes and films into vibrant digital memories. Simply mail them in. We'll do the rest. Then, relive these perfected memories on any modern device. Your TV, computer, or phone becomes a gateway to the past. Every laugh, every step, every cherished moment, now just a tap away. Get started today at iMemories.com.
You got better things to do than clean out clogged gutters. Call Leaf Filter today and never clean out clogged gutters again.
Leaf Filter's technology keeps debris out of your gutters for good. Guaranteed. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER today or visit leaffilter.com.
WSOP presents the NFL Poker Experience. Rep your team. Compete in exciting NFL tournaments, win exclusive NFL Poker Championship rings, and collect cards to complete the NFL albums. Download the WSOP free-to-play app for a chance to win $1,000 towards your favorite team merchandise.
Like a relentless weed, moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms can keep coming back. Break away to what's possible with Tremfya. With symptom relief as early as 4 weeks, remission at 12 weeks, and lasting remission at 1 year. Some even saw visible healing of the intestinal lining. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Healing is possible with Tremfya. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means it's ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dried premium meats, fruit, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Never kibbled.
You got it, kid, and they're gonna love it.
Lock in 50% off for 1 year when you subscribe to the Whole Health System.
There are only a few men I'd trust with my life. 2 of them built this wallet. I've known the guys behind Proof for nearly 20 years, and we've been through hell and back together. When they told me they were building the wallet, I just said, bill me now, I'm in. This isn't some fashion piece. This isn't just some trend. These wallets are a direct reflection of the kind of men who built it. It's built to last, built to function, and designed to carry everything you need and more. If anything happens to it, they'll take care of it. No questions, no fine print. If you knew the guys who created this wallet, you wouldn't carry anything else. Go check them out, because they built this thing right.
Well, Elon Musk is literally building reusable rockets that land on ships and drones and things like that. But according to Miss Somalia, Ilhan Omar, Elon isn't very smart. In response to Musk's tweet, using her as an example of how Somalis only elect Somalis, she said, "You are one of the dumbest people on earth. My district is literally a majority white, barely, by the way. Your conspiracy theories are laughable, and you should have no place in society that cares about facts." Right. A woman that may or may not have married her brother from a country where half the nation's IQ is below 68. In America, we consider 70 mentally retarded. She's calling that genius dumb. Kay Smythe, Newsmax contributor Tony Katz, host of Tony Katz Today. I mean, Kay, you just can't make this up.
I mean, I'm just so sick of women like her representing any Americans in any situation ever, let alone politics. It's an embarrassment. She sets women back. And I don't even want to speak to the fact like how she's showing up and representing Somalia. Firstly, she also shouldn't be representing Somalia because she's supposed to be representing America. I don't know. She just makes me want to throw up in my mouth, and I think everyone agrees.
Yeah, Tony, I mean, obviously I do agree with that. But this Pittsburgh government agency, the Commission on Human Relations, is promoting a class put on by a local leftist group called Tactical Training in the Art of Civil Disobedience. You cannot make this up. The poster says it features a practitioner and a trainer with extensive experience and legal advisor and human rights attorney. So tax dollars are helping train the nutjob lefts to resist arrest?
Well, this is part of it, and I love that I'm able to do this with you as I'm on site doing an event for my Cigar and Bourbon show. You had people over at MS Now, Ms. Now, what they now call the network MSNBC, suggesting that the people who are fighting back against ICE are reminiscent of the French resistance, which means they're fighting whom? The Nazis, and calling ICE Nazis. This is the obscenity that we are all watching and witnessing, where there is this part of America that absolutely believes, and it's a large part of America, that they should be allowed to push back on anything they don't feel is nice or good, anything that they don't like. When they win, everything is fine as long as you do what they say. And when they lose, nothing is fine until you do what they say. Yeah. That's what the American left is.
That's actually 100% right. But Kay, get this, thousands of people, they've lined up in Alberta. I mean, this is when the government pushes too far. Alberta, Canada, when they've had all the communism, socialism, and big government programs that they voted for, finally the people we're done. And in Alberta, they lined up around the block to sign a petition to leave Canada.
I think it's absolutely beautiful. I hope that my own home country of Wales does a similar thing with Great Britain at some point. I hope Scotland gets another chance to do the same thing. I think, all you have to do is just go back and look at what we've been talking about, Carl, for the last 4-5 years. I think me and you on this network now about everything that's gone on in Canada, what they did to truckers, what they're doing to the nuclear family, what they're just doing to children, and the fact that they're promoting, suicide over actual life-saving measures. Canada's a failed state. No one wants to live there anymore. I know more people that have moved out of Canada in the last few years that have moved out of Britain, and Britain's just as bad. Yeah, so I'm praying for Alberta. I hope they get it.
But Tony, this is the thing. It's 80% of Canada lives within 40 miles of America anyway.
No, that's absolutely true. But, we talk about Quebec. Quebec has talked about getting rid of the rest of Canada for a long time. This isn't a place worth being. The fundamental flaw that Canadians have in terms of Canadian government, Mark Carney, et cetera, is that when you're upset with Trump for calling you the 51st state, Canadians don't see the value that you've provided them. So why would they want to stick with you? A fractured Canada means no Canada. And I only hope that the people of Alberta know that as well. If they were to actually get their way, Canada stops existing.
Oh, 100%. They are all the resources almost, and they are all the revenue to fund the big government stupid programs that they want. Kay, Tony, appreciate it.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, coming up, does a leak from DHS pose a threat to the safety of federal ICE agents? Yeah, kinda. A new report finds that we may be on the verge of a major unmasking of ICE coming from the radical left inside the administration, potentially. Details next.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.
The bills just kept steadily piling up. That's when it was time to call J.G. Wentworth.
If you have credit card, personal loan, or medical debt, J.G. Wentworth's debt relief program can help reduce what you owe by up to 45% before fees in as little as 24 months.
My monthly payment went from $700 a month to $380 a month.
If your debt is more than $10,000, you're not alone. Visit jgwentworth.com to learn how we can help you find a path to debt relief.
When Betty and George switched to Consumer Cellular, it saved them a lot. So they started splurging on date night. No, don't you dare. It's an acquired taste. Right now, get your second month free. Call Consumer Cellular.
You know, waking up in the hospital from all that stuff, there's got to be some kind of purpose for me here. I need to get over myself and start helping others. Total Towers came in and gave me and my family a home. I've regained quite a bit of independence from that amazing gift they've given me. I can't begin to thank Total Towers for everything they've done for our family. It means so much to us, a life-changing gift. Thank you. Please donate $11 a month at t2t.org.
Precise designs, subtle curves, curated upgrades, elevated design for thoughtful living. Thuma.
Are you or a loved one a military veteran that has been diagnosed with mesothelioma? Do you have questions about getting the best treatment or paying medical bills? Have you received the proper care and compensation you deserve? Let our firm serve you with the same dedication you served your country. We are exclusively devoted to helping those with mesothelioma. Call now to get this free book, and we'll answer any question you have. We'll even visit you.
Call 800-555-8958 or go to mesobook.com.
Hi, I'm Ben Cozy. Isn't traveling a pain in the neck? You're cramped, uncomfortable, and forget about getting any rest. There's nothing cozy about airplane seats or hard plastic benches, and those so-called travel pillows, they just don't cut it. You don't need another travel pillow. You need Be Cozy, the world's most comfortable neck pillow. Trapped in the middle seat? Wrap Be Cozy around your neck to stop chin drop, bobblehead napping. Smashed up against the window? Fold Be Cozy over and tuck it onto your shoulder for super side support. Frequent flyer miles got you sitting aisle? Turn Be Cozy to the side for the perfect pillow position. Everyone wants to be cozy, so get the world's most comfortable travel neck pillow and be cozy just like me, Ben Cozy. You get to be cozy. Everyone gets a Be Cozy. Only Be Cozy has patented overlapping arms so you get double support and the comfort you need in any seat on any trip. Go online right now and get this exclusive TV offer. Buy one Be Cozy, get one 50% off. Get yours now.
48% of Americans don't get enough magnesium, which is vital for bone, nerve, and muscle health. I recommend Cunol's Magnesium Glycinate. It's formulated for high absorption and is gentle on the stomach. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Here we go. It appears that ICE agents are set to be doxxed tonight, according to a new report from the Daily Beast claiming that personal details of thousands, 4,500 actually, Border Patrol and ICE agents leaked in this huge data breach. The leak reportedly coming from someone within the Department of Homeland Security, including sensitive details. Like I said, 4,500 ICE and Border Patrol agents, 2,000 of them are agents that are currently on the front line of enforcement. Those personal details, names, emails, cell phones, job titles, some of them even have addresses attached to them. This is believed to be the largest breach of DHS staff data ever, all in an effort to unmask ICE. Chad Wolf, Executive Vice President of America First Policy Institute and former acting secretary of DHS. Sir, line this guy up for the firing squad.
Yeah, this is obviously really troubling. Look, these law enforcement officers need our support. What they don't need is to have their personal information out on the internet and being doxxed and the like. So, there needs to be an investigation into this. If the reporting is true and it's coming from inside the department, then they need to investigate. They need to, obviously fire this individual and then prosecute them, right?
Yeah.
They need to be made an example because this isn't right. This isn't okay. Look, it seems like to me that the folks that are very much against ICE believe that this is some type of game. It's not a game. ICE are law enforcement officials arresting some very dangerous individuals. They have a very dangerous job to do. And when you start to play these games, bad things are going to happen, and this is what we're seeing unfolding.
Well, they know exactly what's going to happen. That's why he leaked it. And as you said, if the reports are true, I wholeheartedly support the death penalty on this one for this guy, because that's what he's trying to do to some of these ICE agents. Another strange report out of Minnesota, though. Joe Thompson, the U.S. attorney who prosecuted the original Minnesota fraud, he resigned today along with several other senior members, including 2 top-ranking state prosecutors in the criminal office. Thompson, though, he'd been at the center of this debate of the fraud and found in Minnesota and all those billions, and he was the one who originally discovered it. But he's saying that he didn't want to go as hard as the federal government in the prosecution, including looking into the wife of the woman who was shot who tried to run over an ICE agent.
Yeah, this is odd. This doesn't make any sense to me, because anytime there's an incident like there was last Wednesday, is you investigate everyone, right? You talk to everyone involved. You talked with the ICE officers, particularly the one who fired his weapon, but also the 2 or 3 others that were there. Obviously, you talk to the wife or the significant other or whoever was there as well. And you investigate everyone because you want to understand what's going on, right? We heard on tape her partner say, "Drive, baby, drive." Was she encouraging her to run over an ICE law enforcement official? You don't know that until you investigate. So this idea that you're going to have prosecutors resign because they simply don't want to investigate someone, that seems very odd to me. It doesn't seem logical at all.
Yeah, no. Well, Chad Wolf, I hope we get to the bottom of this. I hope our ICE agents are safe tonight, and this doxing is fake news, but we'll see what happens. Chad?
All right, thanks.
Thank you. All right, well, speaking of fraud, President Trump today is ready to get to the bottom of this in the Minnesota fraud case, taking to Truth Social this morning, saying Minnesota Democrats love the unrest that anarchists and professional agitators are causing because it gets the spotlight off the $19 billion that was stolen by really bad and deranged people. Fear not, great people of Minnesota. The day of reckoning and retribution is coming. I want to bring in someone who knows the wrath of these rioters, independent journalist Cam Higby, who's been out there on the ground getting hit with all kinds of who knows what in the thick of Minneapolis this weekend. Cam, I mean, this guy resigning, okay, good riddance. Our Justice Department better lock some people up, though.
Yeah, totally. And I hope that we get some justice for what happened the other night to Nick Sorter and I. I mean, we easily could have been killed. They threw pre-frozen water bottles through our vehicle windows. And keep in mind, they didn't know we were going to be there. So those pre-frozen water bottles that they froze before the riot were most likely intended for federal law enforcement.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's the problem is we time and time again seeing no local law enforcement. I mean, we had Nick Sorter on last night to talk about this stuff. I mean, this is insane to me. You guys are out there hanging out and no support, nothing. How many people are you facing like every night when you go out there by the way, you're covering their protest that they want attention for.
Exactly. You'd think that you'd want as much publicity for it as physically possible. It's the purpose of a protest is to make a stir. It varies. The night of the riot where they were breaking into businesses and destroying stuff, there were several thousand people on the streets. This night where our Jeep got surrounded and we got attacked, probably throughout the night, a couple hundred to 100 people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that sounds like a fair fight. Maybe I should come out there and join you guys. But the problem is like, how have we gotten to a point where Department of Homeland Security is now having to tweet out to these morons, do not bring your baby to a violent riot? So that was in Minneapolis. But 4 years ago, people like Tim Walz in Minnesota wanted people like me to lose my children's custody because I wouldn't get vaccinated. I mean, like, how have we gone so awry?
The cognitive dissonance is mind-boggling to me, and you bring that up. It's funny because the night I was talking about where there were thousands of people out and they were actively attempting to, I mean, not even attempting, they did break into the hotel that they believed ICE was staying at.
They weren't even there.
Yeah, they weren't even there. It broke into several other hotels, destroyed the property. There were literally toddlers on the street, people walking around with their toddlers, and there's state police lines, Minneapolis police lines towards the end of the night. The game wardens were out there forming a line. They didn't end up doing anything, of course, but imagine a tear gas canister goes off. What's to be of your toddler that you've decided to bring to a riot?
Yeah, no, it's all crazy to me. Well, Cam Higby, we appreciate it. Stay safe out there, brother. Hopefully they'll let me come join you soon. Just saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, coming up, this state's farmers are fighting back along with state Republicans after their taxes were tripled for growing our food. Next.
This isn't your your average pill. This is Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks is a fast-acting solution because it dissolves under your tongue.
Rose Sparks.
Guys, get started today.
Connect with a provider to find out if Rose Sparks are right for you.
One of my most frequently asked questions is, how do you get your teeth so white? And no, it's not the reflection off my white hair. It's Smile Actives. Boom, right there.
Do you have a yo-yo smile? Sometimes yellow, sometimes white. It's a constant battle between everyday stains and whitening treatments. Until now, get Smile Actives, the daily teeth whitening breakthrough that gives you a more youthful smile and helps you keep it.
Smile Actives is easy, and it works. No gloopy trays, no messy strips.
Just add Smile Actives to your favorite toothpaste and watch the magic happen. Our patented Polyclean microfoam lifts away deep stains for a dramatically younger and whiter smile.
You have a choice. You can have those yellow teeth, or you can be full of confidence. I love my white teeth.
Scan, click, or call for your whitest smile yet. And if you order right now, we'll double your whitening free. Get an extra Smile Actives as our free gift to you, but only while supplies last.
And right now, the best part, buy one, get one free.
100% of users saw whiter teeth. Smile Actives lifts away even the toughest stains from coffee, wine, and food, gently restoring your bright, youthful smile. Plus, it's safe for veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I drink coffee every day. Smile Active, it works. Got your boy gleaming.
Clinically shown to brighten your teeth 5 shades whiter in just 7 days.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Act now. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll double your order. Free. But hurry, this deal won't last. Smile Actives is guaranteed to work. Whiten your teeth or get your money back. No questions asked. Don't wait. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. That's free shipping. A free extra bottle. That's an incredible 58% savings.
I think we can all agree, no matter what the occasion, when you leave the house, everyone notices a bright white smile.
Scan the code, go to smileactives.com or call to get your beautiful whiter smile now.
I'm a martial artist, a skydiver, a pilot, and all of them require your feet to work. Get up in the morning and it felt like I was standing on marbles on my heel. When I went into the Good Feet store, the fitting was personalized. It was all about me. You put in the arch supports and your day becomes better and the sun shines, the unicorns run by, and it's a good life. I'm Randy and that's my Good Feet story.
See for yourself with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
Not again. Your cold is coming! Your cold is coming!
Thanks, Revere.
We really need to keep Zycam in the house.
Only if you want to shorten your cold. When you feel a cold coming, shorten it with Zycam.
So normally on Tuesdays, we do 2A Tuesdays. However, the reason we have a Second Amendment is our founding fathers thought there might be a need for a revolt over things like taxes, which is how we got founded as a country. And guess what Connecticut's trying to do? They're tripling the tax on farmland, which is a huge blow to local farmers. Roll this.
I can't suddenly, because taxes go up on something, say, well, how else am I going to derive money from this land?
It's obvious to me that taxes need to increase over time, but the fact that they went up at such an exorbitant amount is incorrect.
It doesn't just affect farms. It affects our food supply. It affects our viability.
Yeah. Now, the Department of Agriculture reassesses farmland every 5 years based on the farm use, not the real estate value after taking the survey from farmers. And in 2025, values skyrocketed. They revised it, but it's still so incredibly high because they didn't adjust the mill rate. The increase has prompted Republicans and other sane people, which apparently there's not a lot of in the Connecticut legislature anymore, to advocate for farmer representation in the review process. Two of those Republicans on the right side of low taxes, Connecticut State Senator Heather Summers and Connecticut State Senator Rob Sampson. All right, so Heather, you have been out in front of this. What world is it acceptable, right, feasible, or anything else to start taxing farmers? Are they trying to get them to leave?
It certainly seems that way, Carl. The increases range from 560% to 2,300% in increase. And I think the biggest issue here is the way and the methodology in which they use to increase the assessments. They literally sent out a QR code on a postcard to 1/5 of the farmers in the state of Connecticut. We don't have any idea on what kind of response rate they had, etc. This is criminal. It is will decimate the farms in Connecticut, and we are calling on the governor to take action and have a moratorium on this new assessment so that farms can continue to thrive here in the state of Connecticut.
Rob, and look, I happen to own a farm in Connecticut, and I have agriculture credits and things like this, and I got one of these tax things, and I basically told them no, and I was willing to invoke the fact that I'm a veteran with disability and pay no taxes if they wanted to push this. So I'm like, at least I had a leg to stand on here. However, most people don't, and they could see from $5,000 to $25,000 increase. That'll decimate somebody with a 100-acre farm.
Right. Carl, you hit on something right out of the gate, which is that, our country is founded on certain basic principles and premises, and we should be a government of, for, and by the people. But in Connecticut, it seems like the people are always the ones getting hammered. The Connecticut Democrats continue to go after the hardest working people in the state, and also the people they tend to disagree with politically. You mentioned the Second Amendment, people that are homeschoolers. I mean, it seems like the Connecticut Democrats always seem to manage to come up with policies that harm people that largely support Republicans. This is going to hurt a lot of people, and at the moment, there's nobody taking responsibility for it. You just hear crickets from the administration.
Right. And Heather, these are jobs. There's a bunch of farms up where my farm is, and they employ people that have been employed in that industry for 5 generations. If this happens, you're talking about ending generational somewhat prosperity.
Yes, actually today, one of the saddest stories that we heard was coming from my district in North Stonington, the Lewis Farm. It has been a farm since 1791. It's 9th generation. The young man, Ben, who's 18 years old, wants to take over the farm. That's all he's ever known. He talked about playing with tractors as a child. He doesn't know how to do anything else but farm.
Right.
If this goes through, they will be forced to get rid of their farm, and he will not be able to carry on a family tradition. It is just tragic, and it has to be stopped.
Real quick, Rob, is there anybody they can call for help? Like, how do people make noise about this?
Well, certainly Senate Republicans were very noisy today. We had an excellent press conference. My colleagues were there shouting at from the rooftops. Senator Fazio, Senator Summers, of course, Senator Harding, and Senator Gordon were all there. And I certainly joined them. There is a petition I think people should sign. It's savectland.com. I would encourage your viewers to check that out. This is the kind of thing where it's going to take people across Connecticut speaking up to force the majority into action. We've been speaking up on many issues, whether it's property taxes, electric rates, affordability overall. It seems like the Connecticut Democrats are deaf to all of these things, but at some point, the people of Connecticut are going to make enough noise or change things at the ballot box if we're lucky.
Yeah, Heather, I mean, we have virtual super majorities and one-party rule for forever, and we have some of the highest property taxes, highest state taxes, income taxes, whatever. Is there a law? I mean, I got about 20 seconds left for you. Is there a law that could be referenced to fight this?
Absolutely. We can make changes to PA 490. That's the statute in which these farmlands are supposed to be preserved. And we talk about affordability. I want to remind everybody in Connecticut, the legislature has been Democrat for over 50 years, and the governor has been a Democrat for over 16 years. When we talk about affordability in Connecticut, it lays in no one's hands except the Democrats.
Yeah. Oh, shocking. But you know what? They keep diving into the shallow end of stupid with high taxes. State Senator Heather Summers, State Senator Rob Sanson, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. This kind of stuff breaks my heart. Before we go, Congress takes up a major issue, reversing a major thing. Next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
Omaha Steaks is America's original butcher.
Hold on, steak voiceover guy. I got this. Omaha Steaks is America's original butcher. But what's that mean? It means all these steaks are USDA certified tender.
Well, she's right.
Yeah. They love it. I love that they love it. This is why you get Omaha Steaks.
Right now, get 4 USDA certified tender steaks free when you visit omahasteaks.com/tender.
Skip the grocery store and
skip the grocery store and get Omaha Steaks today.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
Here's Chris Cunahan with the Leaf Filter Gutter Report.
From blizzards to downpours to windstorms or heat waves, no matter where you live, Leaf Filter keeps your gutters clog-free year-round. Schedule your free inspection today. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
Hi, Mom. I can't wait for you to hear well again, so I won't have to scream to tell you that I love you.
Now tell me if you can hear this. Hi, Mom.
It's not just your hearing. For us, it's your life. That's why we created the Miracle Ear Way. Our superior expertise is backed by licensed professionals that take the time to get to know you and your needs. Book your free test. Call 1-800-498-7146. Your care is on us. From your first hearing test to free unlimited servicing, cleanings, and checkups. We utilize solutions that transform hearing. It's our way of offering nearly invisible designs to AI technology. Try risk-free. Call 1-800-498-7146. Stay connected to your loved ones. Book now. Call 1-800-498-7146.
Don't let hackers start the new year with your money. Cyber criminals are targeting your savings and identity and your personal information. Respond with Guardio. Guardio is a security tool that stops fake sites in real time, flags malicious emails, and blocks phishing links, helping you outsmart modern threats and stay in control of your online security. Run a free scan to see if your information is already exposed by going to Guardio.com now.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dry premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and they're gonna love it.
Well, folks, we have some breaking news before we go. Congressional action. Did they overturn Obamacare? No, it wasn't that. Voter ID? Nope, not voter ID. They do. Oh, yes. They reversed the Biden-era regulation on shower heads. You people, this is what you're voting on? You're voting on the amount of water I can take a shower with? Can I please get somebody in jail? Can I get voter ID? Can you repeal Obamacare? Can you stop wasting and lighting $7 trillion a year on fire? Nope, sorry. We're going to let you get an extra gallon through your water. Now, Rob, I reach into all my shower heads and take the needle-nose pliers and pluck that stupid plastic thing out. I let it run anyway.
Yeah, I didn't know that there was a real showerhead issue. I know the laundry machine at home is a big time issue that I can't stand. The new washing machines are bad. I didn't know that there was. My showerhead is good, so I don't know. I don't even
wash my clothes anyway, so it doesn't matter. All right, Rob.
Carl, good to see you. All right.